To be honest, there's so many stories this week. I've found it hard to pick one which wasn't absolutely ridiculous in favour of the EV people, or that's blatant misinformation put out by the EV people. But then there's a couple of others that just kind of come through. There's all the clouding information, all the shotgun of good EV news, which seems to me to be rubbish when you actually look at it. It's a blatant misinformation campaign by the big boys. But then some other little stories that just seem to sneak through kind of point to a more realistic view. Let me just go through a couple of them. GB News. Labour dealt major blow as petrol and diesel cars remain clear choice despite net zero goals. Was anybody in doubt? This is by Hema Visavadia. Hope I pronounced that right, Hema. On the 15th of the 1st, 2026, only 1 in 10 drivers would opt for an electric car this year. Drivers have firmly rejected plans to give up petrol or diesel cars, despite the government's push towards electric vehicles, according to shocking new research. Who's it shocked? It's not shocked me. It's not shocked anybody in the motor trade. The only people it will have shocked is the people that believe that garbage that's being spread by all the flipping people who will obviously benefit, or I assume are getting bungs from promoting EVs. The report found just 11% of drivers would choose a fully electric car for their next vehicle, with a majority planning on sticking with petrol or diesel. If they've interviewed private people, I would say 11% is about an honest figure of what electric vehicle uptake would be if there wasn't so many bribes, grants, tax incentives, massive discounts. In fact, no, I take it back. It'd be less. If there wasn't such massive discounts out there, it would be less than 11%. You can set a ZEV mandate for 22%, then 28%, and 33%, and 50%. But the only way they're going to achieve that is by throwing money at the situation, not by selling vehicles to people who actually want them or would buy them, as this clearly shows. 11%, I'm pretty sure that's the figure that has always been bandied about for the true uptake of electric vehicle. That's what the true uptake would be. As I say, I'd probably be one of those 11%. I've got an EV. It suits my needs. Not all the time, but the thing is, what I've done, because I realised that an EV wouldn't suit my needs, I got an EV for going around town, a little one, a quadricycle, which is perfect for nipping backwards and forwards to work, going around town, going shopping, it's perfect. But I know very well that an electric vehicle wouldn't suit my needs when I go on a trip. If I want to drive to Italy, if I want to go down south, if I want to go snowboarding up north, I do not want an electric vehicle. It would not suit my needs. So I have 2 vehicles. I'm fortunate enough to be able to have 2 vehicles. But if you're not, then I highly doubt that an electric vehicle is not perfect for you without a compromise or without doing stuff you don't want. Like Greg's dad. He wants to go to Norfolk, but you don't want to be stopping on the way to go to Norfolk at a charger, especially in the summer holidays when there's massive queues and fights break out. So yes, 11% I would say is about the uptake. Interest in electric cars was found to be higher among people buying brand new vehicles, with around 19% of new car buyers considering going fully electric. Well, there's a £3,750 grant on some of them. There's massive discounts and there's fantastic interest-free finance options. So yes, although this drops to just 5% for used cars. For the reasons I've just mentioned, there's no 0%. there's no big grant. There's depreciation that hits the used vehicles, or has hit the used vehicles very hard, because of the £3,750 grant on new ones. It's knocked them all down. But also, again, you know I'm telling the truth, because I can't stand the full of shit show, or electric everything, or whatever it is they're called these days. I can't stand them. But on their website, there's a Vauxhall Frontera for £119 a month, £1,400. You cannot run your own vehicle or buy a used vehicle. You can't get a used electric vehicle that is only going to depreciate by £119 a month. No matter what you say, you can't save £1,500 a year running a used electric vehicle. You can't. You can't. And the people who actually say you can only need to look at their own website and download AT Price Tracker to see that you can't save £1,500 a year. If a dealer has an EV in stock for a year, he's going to blow a fortune. So again, let's put that one to bed. That's just a myth. They say it's a fact, but it's not a fact. The only fact is that it's not true. Instead, many drivers were recorded as still choosing options that still rely on petrol, with 27% saying they would pick a hybrid car, while 11% would go for a plug-in hybrid. So, petrol. As we all know, even the Climate Intelligence Unit knows, a hybrid is a fossil fuel car. It's only electric when they need to include it in the figures to say that 1 in 3 people have gone electric. No, it's still 75% have gone petrol. The biggest concern for sticking to petrol and diesel cars was cost worries. Almost half of drivers, 45%, warning that electric cars remain too expensive. Well, I'd have to disagree with that, because I think there's some fantastic bargains out there for electric cars if they suit your needs. But as I say, they don't suit your needs. They're a compromise. So there's some bargains out there if you are prepared to compromise. Or if you have 2 cars. Use the electric for what it's good for, and use the petrol what it's good for. And the only thing is, if the petrol breaks down, you can't use the electric for everything, whereas if the electric breaks down, your petrol will do everything you need, no problem. And that's the real truth of the matter. A petrol car will do everything, an electric car won't. It can do some things cheaper in some scenarios than a petrol car, but it can't do it better. Others express fears about how far they can travel on a single charge, how long charging takes, and the cost of replacing batteries. I will reiterate that an EV lasts the life of the battery. It's not the battery lasts the life of the EV. In BCA auction as non-runners over the last few weeks, I think there's a 29,000 mile Nissan Leaf. High voltage fault, battery fault, 29,000 miles. That is an economic write-off. In fact, virtually all EVs these days, if the battery goes, as it's come out of the showroom, it's virtually an economic write-off because of the price of the battery. If you had to pay for that, it wouldn't be worth your while. You basically buy an EV, you're buying the battery, and you get the rest of the EV for free, just wrapping around the battery. Charging was another major issue for most drivers who expect to buy an electric car and be able to charge it at home. But this remained unfeasible for more than half who do not have a home charger. Again, it's not unfeasible. So that's not really true. I've used an EV. I don't have a home charger, but I did have a granny lead. And because I didn't do that many miles a day, and I don't have a home charger now, and I can't even charge my Ami with a granny lead from my flat. So I have to go into Preston town centre and charge. It's more expensive, But the actual car, for what it does for me, cost me about £2 for a few weeks nipping into town. And it actually saves me money because I can park on the electric car charging point, and that's free parking. So I can charge my vehicle, whereas I'd have to pay to just park if I went in a petrol. So again, an EV saves me money. But I can't charge at home, but I can still run an EV. And I could run a Jaguar I-Pace that took 39 hours to charge from a granny charger. But I was at work 8 hours a day. So by the time it got to weekend, the battery was fully charged, just charging at work. It was fully charged, so I'd got then 200-mile range at weekend. 100-mile where I was going, 100-mile back. So that was perfect, just with a granny charger. Where things are going wrong these days, people are trying to make electric cars do something they can't do. And what they can't do really is range. Yeah, they can. Baz, they can. They're going to be able to do 500. Okay. What they can't do now is charge from home to give you that range, because your charger won't charge it fast enough. Really speaking, most chargers, from what I can gather, you can only have up to 7 kilowatts. You can get an 11 kilowatt charger, but in order to get an 11 kilowatt charger, you have to have three-phase electric. And to have three-phase electric, you've got to have your house converted, which costs thousands of pounds. Sometimes you've even got to get another supply from the electric to your house. So as the batteries get bigger and these chargers outside, the fast chargers get bigger, your chances of saving money would seem to me to get smaller and smaller. So the longer the range, the less chance you've got of saving money, and the better off you'd be with a petrol or diesel. I know, mind-blowing. Public charging points were also a concern, with 37% of respondents saying there are not enough of them in the UK to become a reliable option. I would say there is. Wherever I go, I see empty chargers. In all honesty, I've never ever seen a big queue for a charger. So I don't agree with that. Only 5% of drivers said they would buy a used electric car. Only 5%. And yet they're so cheap. They cost more than a nice car, new. And 12 months old, same spec, same mileage, they're cheaper. So why wouldn't they buy them? Because EVs are dropping and ICE cars are going up. So whatever you would save if you could charge at home in electric, you're losing depreciation. You cannot get round it. If anybody tells you any different, they are lying to you. And then you have to question the motives. Jamie Hamilton, automotive partner and head of electric vehicles at Deloitte UK, said progress is being made, but warned that many drivers still face real problems. There are clear benefits to switching to an electric vehicle, and it's encouraging to see the number of consumers considering an electric vehicle rising from last year. What's it risen by? There is still some way to go to the 2035 zero-emission vehicle target, and there remain significant barriers for many consumers to make the switch to electric. 2035. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye bye.